Hello, welcome to the Craig's Motel. My name's Conan. In a previous video, I showed you how to get your bass to cut through the mix by adding saturation and harmonics. In today's video, I'm going to take it a step further and I'm going to show you how to make space for the kick and the bass in the low frequencies. Let's jump in. Okay, so we're going to use the same project that I used on the previous video where I showed you how to add saturation and harmonics to the higher frequencies of your bass to help it cut through the mix. So if you need to brush up on what I did there, just watch that previous video. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you how to make some space for the kick and the bass in the mix as well. So not only is it cutting through the mix, but you're also not being overwhelmed in the low frequencies. The thing with bass and kick drums is they take up the same area in the frequency range. That can be from kind of 40 hertz up to 120 hertz. They're just numbers. They're not exact numbers. I'm just giving you a rough idea. So what can quite often happen is if you've got the kick and the bass at the same time in the track, hitting at the same time, you can get phase issues, you can get peaks that don't really relate to the rest of the track. So you're hitting 0 dB, you're peaking and you're thinking, well, it doesn't really even sound loud. And it will be because your kicks and your bass are hitting at the same time. So an old technique, it's not a new technique, that us mix engineers have been using for a long time is to dip the bass out of the way of the kick, or the other way around, but generally you dip the bass out of the way of the kick. So I'm going to show you how to do that today in the MPC Standalone. So we're all aware of the mother ducker. And the idea behind the mother ducker is to get that kind of pumpy sound. It's used a lot in house music, it's used a lot in hip hop. But the thing about the mother ducker is, and I have made other videos about this and so have other people, there's a lot more to the mother ducker. It's not just about ducking things out of the way and just getting that pumpy kind of sound. What you can do with more advanced techniques is the mother ducker can be used as a dynamic EQ, as a multi-band compressor, as a de-esser. There are so many more uses to the mother ducker other than just ducking things out of the way. But today we're kind of going to be using the mother ducker in that way, almost in that way, because what we're going to be doing is using an advanced technique where we have the bass cut into two separate frequencies. And we're only going to be dipping or ducking the low end out of the way so that it gives some space for the kick and just kind of, it will just mean there'll be less mud and less boom and less thickness in the low end, and you're less likely to get those peaks and you're less likely to get any phasing issues. Phasing issues I'm not going to go into too much, but they are our enemy generally. There are very few occasions when it's not. So you don't want that, and that can happen if you've got two low-end frequencies battling against each other in the mix. And what might happen is rather than you get booming bass, you actually get your bass cut out altogether because it's phasing, and you just lose the bass, you lose that low end, and you kind of get that hollow, horrible sound. Phasing issues, bane of my mixing life and mastering life. So we'll just listen to the track again quickly. Now, this is not going to be a lesson on the mother ducker, but I'm going to be using a mother ducker here. If you need to know more about how to set the mother ducker up, there are other videos. I've actually made a video as well. So let's take the Rhodes out so that it's easier to hear what's going on. Now, that doesn't sound bad. It's okay. It's a little bit muddy, and you could get rid of that mud by EQing the mud out on the bass, but then you're going to lose it throughout the bass, and the mud is only really happening when the kick and the bass are playing together. So what I want to do is basically duck the bass out very subtly, not too much. A lot of people use the ducking effect to really get that bounce ducking type sound. French disco house is the first thing that springs to mind for me. EDM, where you get that real kind of like pumping over pads, all that kind of thing. That's not what we're going for here today. Today we're using an advanced mixing technique to subtly duck the bass out of the way of the kick. So come out of the roads. On the actual bass beat, which is my sounds, I only really want to put the mother ducker on the actual kick sound. So if I go into pad level and play my kick, you can see that I've got the kick drum has the mother ducker input set up and it's set up to bus 1. That's what we want. Okay, so let's come out. Now if we go into the actual bass line, now, if you remember from my previous video, if you haven't, then perhaps watch it. I've split the bass into 2 different sections. I've got low end, and then I've got high mids where I've put the saturation on. Now, I want those high mids. Well, are they high mids or are they mids? They're just harmonics, let's put it that way. I want those to still cut through the mix and they're not in the way of the bass. So if I was to take the bass sound and duck all of it, then I'm going to be losing some of that as well. And I don't want that to happen. I still want that to cut through the mix. So by using this technique, I'm still going to have the cut through the mix. I'm still going to have those that saturation and those harmonics cutting through the mix, but I'm just going to be ducking the low end out of the way. So at pad level, I just want the mother ducker applied to the low end, not the high end. Okay, so you can see here that I've got mother ducker set up. This is also set to bus 1. You have to make sure that is the case, otherwise it's not going to duck. So let's just listen to it with it turned off quickly. So if you watch here, this shows you the gain reduction and you'll see it's coming down as the kick comes in. And that's basically telling me that the, stop now please, thank you very much. That's basically telling me now that the bass, the kick is ducking the bass out the way. With these controls on the left here, we can control the way that that happens. Now this is personal choice. For instance, you know, let's take a French disco house type sort of thing where you've got the pads or the disco loop ducking every single time the kick hits. You can control the attack and the release on that and the amount of duck, and that can create more of a groove. If you have really, really quick attack and really, really quick release, it's going to be dut, 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 dut. But if you have the attack a bit slower and the release a bit slower, it's going to be going whap, whap, whap. You know, try to imagine the shape of the attack and the release rather than being cut straight away on the attack, cut straight away on the release. So it's going but. You're smoothing it off by changing the attack and the release. I don't know if I'm explaining this very well, but I think you understand what I mean. Basically, the slow attack and the slow release is going to make more of a kind of wavy kind of duck rather than an abrupt duck. It makes it sound more natural and you can create a really, really nice groove with it as well. But it is totally taste. Do not copy my numbers. You need to listen to it, and each individual case situation is going to be different. So you need to decide how you want the groove, how you want the ducking to be done. And also you want to decide how much as well. Now with this technique, you don't really want it ducking completely out of the way. But I will say a good way to kind of get a feel for what the ducking is actually doing, the shape of the duck, is to overdo the threshold, because then you're going to hear it. This is a way to get a good idea of what compression is doing. It's a good way to get an idea of what frequency you're boosting with EQ or with EQ, or which frequency you're attenuating, is to totally overdo it and then back it off. I say this to students all the time. Just push it so you can hear exactly what it's doing, and then back it off to the point where you can almost not hear it anymore. And that's generally a pretty good place to put it. So that's what I did when I set this up. I pushed the threshold. You can see now that's completely overdone, but it's giving me an idea of the shape of the actual duck, the actual dipping. And then I made a subjective decision by the ratio, which is kind of the amount of ducking that's going on, the knee of the duck. You can also adjust here as well. Like I said, this is not going to be a massive in-depth tutorial on the mother ducker. I have made a video about that. And also you'll understand more about ratio, attack and release and threshold if you watch videos to do with compression, which I've also done videos on, of course, but there's plenty more out there. You don't have to just watch my videos. But by adjusting, I mean, that's almost kind of what it's doing. It's doing the same kind of thing as what a compressor does. And you can shape the way that it compresses. You can shape the way that it ducks with the attack and the release. But again, I stress, it's subjective. It's a taste thing. It's how you want it. And it will suit the way the track is. Do you want it to be abrupt? Do you want it to dip out the way straight away? With a bass line, I would say generally as a rule, you want a little bit of smoothness, roundness to it, because then it's going to sound a lot more natural. You don't really want to hear it. It's going to be something that, if you think about it, let's take 60 hertz as an example. Let's say you've got the bass and the kick both at the same time doing 60 hertz. Now that's going to be a problem because it's just going to peak, or it might cause phasing issues. So what you want to do is you only want one of them at 60 hertz. But you don't want it ducked out so much that you lose 60 hertz. You want the two of them kind of added together to still give you a nice bit of low end. So you need to get that balance. That's where you need to use the threshold and even the level of the actual bass. But just think that the mother ducker is only dipping out where the kick drum is. So you have to get a fine balance. And that's why just copying people's numbers or watching a video where somebody says, this is how you must set up mother ducker, there is no other way, this is the best way. I love those videos. This is the best way to set up mother ducker. This is the only way to do your workflow. This is the only way to EQ kick drums. I laugh at those because if you've got even half a brain, you'll know that that's not the case. There's an infinite way of doing it because there's an infinite amount of kick drums. There's an infinite amount of tracks. Anyway, I'm going on a tangent here, but just honestly, just walk in the opposite direction when you see those videos. This is how to do it. This is the only way to do it, because it's a fool's paradise. There you go. Oh, anyway, let's get back to the mother ducker. So let's do it off again and listen to the muddiness of the bass. Listen to the muddiness of the woo. Try and not listen to the saturation part of it, because remember, I've still got that higher frequency part of the bass in there as well. It almost makes the kick lose a little bit of its kind of definition. It's kind of, I don't know, it just, the whole low end just sounds a little bit meh. It sounds a little bit like flappy and like, oh, no, I've got no control over it. I don't know what's going on. It's muddy, it's bassy. Now, on a big sound system, that's just going to be flapping about and it's going to sound like a total mess. So you need a bit of tightness. You need that cohesion. You need that balance. So I'm going to play it without and then with. Bypass, not bypass, whatever you want to say. So there you have it, a little bit of an advanced technique, but I think it takes your low end to a new level. It's actually a really simple technique once you know how to do it and once you understand the concept behind it. But also, I think, I mean, just listening at the end there, it can introduce a groove into the track, because you're shifting the emphasis from the bass to the kick, from the kick to the bass, and it kind of can introduce a groove. And that's why it's really, really important to get the attack and the release right, and to get the amount right by using the threshold. Because if you overdo it, you're going to lose some of that cohesion, and you're going to lose some of that groove, and you're going to lose some of that low end. But if you don't get it right, you're going to have too much low end, and again, no cohesion, no balance, and it's just going to sound flappy and muddy, and it's not going to work. So it's going to take training, and it's going to take errors, and it's going to take playing on your car system, playing on a big system, playing on your phone. You're going to, you're going to have to play with it. I can't give you a golden bullet, and I cannot just say, set it like this and forget about it because it's suddenly going to be right after that. That's not going to be the case with this. It's going to be trial and error. But when you get it right, when it's just in the pocket, I mean, I love that saying. It's a drummer's thing, getting it in the pocket. When you've got that groove in the pocket, you'll pull that face, the stank face, the bass face, and it's there. It's there now. It's in the pocket. I've got it right. And it's such a nice fit. I'm actually getting goosebumps thinking about it, because when you've got that locked in, using that technique, it just takes it to the next level. For me, it just sounds pro. It sounds finished. It sounds posh. It's just it's where it's at for me. Get it in the pocket like that, and I love that technique. And it's doable in the MPC Standalone. You don't need loads of VST plugins in your DAW to do it. You can do it in the MPC. So thanks for watching. This is the Quakes Motel. My name's Conan. Till next time.